The surgical lights hummed above the metallic table as High Surgeon Zaltek adjusted his instruments with 4 precise tentacles. The creature before him was supposedly dead, had been dead for 3 standard cycles according to the ship's bioscanners. Yet something was wrong. The tissue samples show impossible readings, his assistant Vex whispered through her breathing apparatus. The cellular decay patterns don't match any known species in the galaxy. Zaltek's compound eyes focused on the pale, scarred form strapped to his examination table. The specimen was bipedal, roughly 2 meters tall, with strange fur covering its skull. The Corvani Empire had captured it during their raid on the 3rd planet of the Sol system, a backwater world the primitives called Earth. Begin the autopsy, Zaltek commanded, his surgical blade gleaming. But as the blade touched skin, something impossible happened. The creature's chest rose with a sharp, violent intake of breath. Both aliens stumbled backward, their equipment clattering to the floor. The human's eyes snapped open. Not the cloudy gaze of death, but burning, furious, and very much alive. Where? I? The creature rasped, its voice like grinding stone. Zaltek's multiple hearts pounded in terror. Impossible. You were clinically dead. Brain activity ceased. Cellular function stopped. The human tried to sit up, muscles straining against the energy restraints. You made one mistake, Tentacle Face. What mistake? Vex stammered. The human's lips curved into something that might have been a smile, but felt more like a predator baring its teeth. You pissed me off. The restraints, military-grade energy bonds capable of holding a Corvani battle mech, began to spark and crack. The human's vital signs on the monitors weren't just active, they were climbing. Heart rate, neural activity, cellular regeneration, all spiking beyond anything in the Corvani medical database. Alert the sector commander, Zaltek whispered. Tell him the human specimen is exhibiting unknown biological properties. But it was too late. With a sound like thunder, the restraints shattered. The human sat up slowly, examining the surgical wounds that were already beginning to close. Now then, it said, standing to its full height and towering over both aliens. Let's talk about what you did to my planet. As security alarms began blaring throughout the ship, Zaltek realized they hadn't captured a primitive specimen. They had awakened something far more dangerous. Sector Commander Theiss received the emergency transmission as his dreadnought, Void Render, hung in the cold darkness between star systems. The message was impossible, but the bio readings didn't lie. Show me the specimen, he commanded. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the human, now standing, moving, and very much alive. The creature had somehow overpowered the surgical team and was currently barricaded in the medical bay. How many of our warriors did it take to subdue? Theiss asked his intelligence officer. Sir, that's the concerning part. It didn't fight during capture. Our records show it willingly surrendered. Theiss's crest flattened against his skull, a sign of deep unease among his people. Explain. The human settlement was under bombardment. Civilian casualties were mounting. The specimen walked out of the burning city, hands raised, and demanded we stop the attack in exchange for its cooperation. The security feed showed the human examining the medical equipment with disturbing intelligence. It wasn't panicking or raging. It was learning. It sacrificed itself to save others, Theiss murmured. And now it's alive again. How? Dr. Zaltek's shaking voice came through the comm. Commander, the cellular regeneration isn't following any known biological process. It's as if the creature's body is rebuilding itself through pure, I don't know how to describe it, through pure anger. Theiss watched as the human began dismantling a surgical laser with its bare hands, somehow understanding the alien technology, instinctively. Anger doesn't regenerate dead tissue, Doctor. Sir, you don't understand. I've been monitoring its brain chemistry. The neural patterns are unlike anything we've encountered. When this creature gets angry, truly furious, its body releases compounds that accelerate healing, increase strength, and enhance cognitive function. But this goes beyond biological possibility. The human on the screen suddenly looked directly at the camera, as if it knew it was being watched. Its eyes held an intelligence that made Theiss's blood run cold. It's not just anger, is it? Theiss realized. No, sir. It's spite. Pure, concentrated spite. This creature is literally too angry to die. The communication system crackled as the humans somehow accessed their channel. I can hear you, it said calmly. My name is Marcus Chen, former Lieutenant Colonel, Earth Defense Force, and I have a message for your empire. Theiss leaned forward despite himself. Speak. You attacked my world. You killed my people. You thought I was just another primitive specimen for your collection. Marcus's voice never rose, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. But here's what you didn't know about humans. We don't stay dead when we have unfinished business. The medical bay's blast doors, 3 feet of reinforced titanium, began to buckle outward. And I have very unfinished business with your empire. The blast doors exploded outward like paper in a hurricane. Marcus Chen stepped through the twisted metal, dusting off debris as if he'd simply opened a regular door. The Corvani security team waiting in the corridor opened fire immediately. Energy bolts that could melt through tank armor struck Marcus' center mass. He staggered but didn't fall. Where the weapons should have left smoking craters, his flesh knitted itself back together. In real time. Fascinating, he said, examining a wound that sealed itself even as he watched. I used to be afraid of dying. Had nightmares about it during the war. But now? He looked up at the terrified aliens. Death seems to be afraid of me. The squad leader activated his comm with shaking claws. Command, energy weapons are ineffective. Repeat, primary weapons are not stopping the human. Marcus began walking down the corridor and the security team fell back. Every step he took seemed to make him stronger, more solid, more real. The ship's bioscanners were going haywire, unable to process readings that defied every law of known biology. In the command center, Theiss watched the impossible unfold. How is it moving through our ship's defense grid? Sir, the tactical officer reported, it's not just moving through our defenses, it's learning them. Watch the corridor intersection ahead. On screen, Marcus approached a junction protected by automated plasma turrets. The weapons emerged from hidden panels, locked onto the target, and fired. Marcus didn't dodge. He studied the energy pattern, then simply walked through the plasma stream as if it were warm rain. The plasma is still there, the tactical officer whispered. But it's not affecting him anymore. His body is adapting faster than our weapons can damage it. Dr. Zaltek's voice crackled through the comm from his hiding place. Commander, the creature's bio-readings are climbing exponentially. Heart rate, brain activity, cellular regeneration. It's as if getting shot is making it stronger. Marcus reached the command deck's outer doors and placed his palm against the locking mechanism. The sophisticated security system, designed to withstand boarding parties and explosives, simply melted under his touch. That's impossible, Theiss breathed. Those locks require molecular-level authorization codes. Not impossible, Marcus said as he entered the command center, causing every warrior present to raise their weapons. Just improbable. See, when you're angry enough, when you have enough spite built up inside you, reality starts to bend a little. And I've been building up spite for 3 days of being dead. He surveyed the command crew with cold calculation. Now, I believe we need to discuss reparations for what you've done to Earth. We are the Corvani Empire, Theiss snarled, though his voice shook. We do not negotiate with primitives. Marcus smiled that predatory smile again. Primitives don't usually come back from the dead just to settle scores, but humans, we're stubborn that way. The ship's hull began to vibrate around them, and alarms started blaring. What's happening? Theiss demanded. His navigation officer's voice was barely a whisper. Sir, we're not moving. But something else is. Long-range sensors are detecting ships, lots of ships, human ships. Through the viewports, lights began to appear in the darkness of space. Not the cold light of stars, but the warm glow of human vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel. Marcus nodded approvingly. You see, dying wasn't the worst thing. That happened to me. The worst thing was that while I was dead, I couldn't protect my people. But spite has a funny way of calling to its own kind. The human fleet that materialized around the Corvani dreadnought defied every intelligence report the Empire had on Earth's technological capabilities. Sleek vessels that moved like living things through space, their hulls bearing scars of recent battle but radiating an energy that made seasoned Corvani warriors step back from their sensor displays. Impossible, Theiss muttered, studying the tactical readouts. Our intelligence indicated they barely achieved primitive spaceflight. Marcus, now standing casually in the center of the command deck as if he owned it, chuckled. You attacked us 3 months ago. Did you really think we'd just sit there and take it? The lead human vessel, a massive dreadnought that somehow felt more threatening than the Corvani's finest warship, opened a communication channel. The face that appeared on screen was weathered, scarred, and burning with the same impossible fury that radiated from Marcus. This is Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding the Earth Defense Fleet. I'm here for my brother. Theis's compound eyes widened. Chen? You're related to this creature? Marcus's smile grew wider. Admiral Chen, reporting for duty. Sorry I'm late. Had to take the scenic route through clinical death. Stand down, Marcus, Sarah ordered. We'll handle this diplomatically. Diplomatically? Marcus laughed, and the sound made the ship's hull vibrate. They killed me, Sarah. They killed thousands of our people. Diplomacy died when they decided to treat humans like lab specimens. The Corvani bridge crew was frantically running scans on the human fleet. What they found defied belief. Sir, the tactical officer reported, their vessels are showing energy. Signatures we can't classify. The hulls appear to be constructed from materials that shouldn't exist. And the crews. What about the crews? Bioscanners indicate massive spikes in neural activity across all vessels. It's as if every human in that fleet is experiencing the same phenomenon as this specimen. Dr. Zaltek's voice came through the comm, breathless with scientific terror. Commander, I think I understand what's happening. This isn't just one human showing impossible biology. This is a species-wide response to threat. They're all adapting. They're all becoming something more than they were. On the main screen, Admiral Chen leaned forward. Corvani Empire, you have exactly 60 seconds to release my brother and begin evacuation of all human-controlled systems. After that, we stop asking nicely. We are the dominant species in this sector, Thys declared, though his voice lacked its usual authority. We do not bow to... Marcus held up a hand, and surprisingly, Thys fell silent. Admiral, permission to demonstrate why their ultimatum might not be necessary? Sarah Chen studied her brother's face through the screen. Something in his expression made her nod slowly. 30 seconds, Marcus. Then we do this the hard way. Marcus turned to face the Corvani command crew. You know what the difference is between humans and every other species you've conquered. Enlighten us, Theis said. Other species fight to survive, humans fight to win, and when you kill us... Marcus's eyes began to glow with an inner light that made the bridge illumination seem dim. We fight to make sure you regret it. The ship's superstructure began to groan and twist around them. Not from external pressure, but from something far more terrifying, the sheer force of human will made manifest. 15 seconds, Admiral Chen announced. The Corvani crew looked around in growing panic as their mighty dreadnought, pride of the fleet, began to buckle under the presence of one impossibly angry human. What do you want? Thys finally whispered. Marcus smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't entirely predatory. To go home. But first, we're going to have a conversation about how the Corvani Empire treats its neighbors. The negotiation that followed wasn't really a negotiation at all. It was more like watching a force of nature explain itself to those caught in its path. Marcus had somehow made himself comfortable in the command chair meant for a being twice, his size, while the Corvani bridge crew stood at attention around him. The human fleet maintained position around their dreadnought, not threatening, but radiating the promise of overwhelming violence if needed. Let me explain something about human psychology, Marcus said conversationally, as if he were teaching a class rather than holding an entire starcruiser hostage. Most species develop fight-or-flight responses. We developed fight-or-fight-harder responses. Theis, who had commanded fleets across 3 sectors and brought a dozen species to heel, found himself listening with the attention of a scared child. Your biology shouldn't allow for what you're doing. That's where you're wrong, Marcus replied. Our biology is exactly what allows this. See, humans are pursuit predators. We don't have the biggest claws or the sharpest teeth or the strongest muscles. What we have is the ability to just keep going long after everything else has given up. Dr. Zaltek's voice came through the comm, calmer now but filled with scientific wonder. Commander, I've been analyzing the human cellular structure during this conversation. The spite-driven regeneration isn't just healing damage, it's improving his base physiology. He's literally becoming a more perfect version of himself through anger. Marcus nodded approvingly. Smart doctor. That's exactly what's happening. Every time you hurt a human, every time you make us angry, you're not weakening us, you're giving us fuel. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. Marcus, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Corvani outposts across the sector. Apparently word is spreading about what happened here. 17? Marcus raised an eyebrow. That seems excessive for one ship. It's not just this ship, Sarah explained. Every human who was killed in the initial assault has been... well, they've been coming back. And they're all very unhappy about what happened to them. The color drained from Theis's already pale features. How many humans did we kill in the initial attack? Marcus pretended to consider this. Oh, about 15,000. Give or take a few hundred. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems and the sound of Corvani hearts beating too fast. 15,000 humans, Theis whispered. All experiencing this same condition? That's the thing about spite, Marcus said, standing and stretching as if he were waking from a pleasant nap. It's contagious, especially among humans. We have this wonderful ability to get angry on behalf of each other. The ship's communication system suddenly came alive with reports from across the Corvani Empire. Outposts going silent, battle fleets requesting immediate reinforcement, entire sectors reporting impossible phenomena involving human combatants who refused to stay dead. This is impossible, Theis said for what felt like the 100th time. Marcus walked over to the main view screen and looked out at the human fleet hanging in space like sleeping predators. You know what's really impossible? The fact that you thought you could attack Earth and only have to deal with the people you killed once. He turned back to face the Corvani command crew, and his expression had shifted from casual amusement to something much more serious. Here's what's going to happen. Your empire is going to withdraw from all human space. You're going to provide reparations for the damage you've caused. And you're going to make sure every species in this sector knows exactly what happens when you murder humans. And if we refuse? Theis asked, though he already knew the answer. Marcus smiled that terrible smile one more time. Then you get to find out what 15,000 spite-powered humans can do when they really put their minds to it. 3 days later, the Corvani High Command received reports that would reshape their understanding of warfare, biology, and the terrible mistake they'd made when they'd decided to treat humans as prey. Admiral Vorth, Supreme Commander of the Corvani War Fleet, stood before a holographic display showing the current state of their empire. Red markers indicated lost outposts, yellow showed contested systems, and the growing number of white markers represented territories they'd been forced to abandon entirely. How many confirmed human resurrections? He asked his intelligence chief. 14,732, came the reply, and the number keeps growing. Growing? I thought all casualties from the initial assault had been accounted for. The intelligence officer's tentacles writhed in distress. Sir, that's the problem. It's not just the humans we killed directly. Anyone who died because of our actions, from the bombardment, from infrastructure damage, from the chaos we caused. They're all coming back. Vorth's multiple hearts began beating irregularly. How is that possible? We don't know, sir. Our xenobiologists are calling it sympathetic spite resurrection. It appears that human anger can literally transcend death if the cause is considered sufficiently unjust. The display zoomed in on the Sol system, where the human fleet had grown from dozens of ships to hundreds, then thousands. Each vessel bore the scars of hasty construction, but they moved with the coordination of a species united by purpose. What are their capabilities? Vorth demanded. Unknown, sir. Every time we engage them, they adapt. Energy weapons become less effective after the first use. Kinetic projectiles seem to pass through their hulls without causing damage. And their boarding parties? The officer trailed off, unwilling to continue. Report, Vorth ordered. Sir, they can't be stopped. Physical barriers don't contain them. Energy fields don't slow them down. They move through our ships like ghosts. But they fight like something beyond description. Marcus Chen, now aboard the human flagship Vindication, watched the Corvani retreat through the viewports. His sister Sarah stood beside him, still, trying to process what her brother had become. "Are you still you?" she asked quietly. Marcus considered the question seriously. "I'm more me than I ever was before. Death has a way of clarifying what's important. And what's important to you now?" "Making sure this never happens to anyone else," Marcus replied. "Human or otherwise." Dr. Elizabeth Park, the fleet's chief scientist, approached with a tablet full of readings. "Marcus, we need to talk about what's happening to the others." "Others?" "The other resurrection cases. They're not all like you. Some are more changed. There's a group of Marines who died in the defense of New Geneva. They've been radiating an energy field that makes Corvani weapons malfunction just by being nearby." Marcus frowned. "How many different variations are you seeing?" "Dozens. It's as if each human who comes back is developing abilities based on how they died and what they were feeling at the time. The pilots who were shot down can somehow interface directly with ship systems. The engineers who died trying to save civilians can repair things just by touching them. And the children. What about the children?" Dr. Park's voice was filled with wonder and a little fear. "The children who died scared can now project that fear onto others. The Corvani won't even enter systems where the children are present." Sarah Chen turned from the viewport. "We're not just fighting a war anymore, are we?" Marcus shook his head. "No. We're becoming something new. Something that makes sure wars like this don't happen again." Through the communication system, reports continued to pour in from across human space. The Corvani Empire wasn't just retreating. It was collapsing, as species after species learned what had happened to the humans, and decided they no longer wanted to be part of an empire that could face such terrible retribution. "Sir," the communications officer announced, "we're receiving surrender terms from the Corvani High Command." Marcus smiled, but this time it was genuinely warm. "Good. Then maybe we can all go home." But even as he said it, he knew that home would never be quite the same for any of them. 6 months after the first resurrection, the galaxy had learned a new rule. Humans were not to be trifled with. Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Earth Defense Station, watching as former Corvani vessels were retrofitted with human technology. The irony wasn't lost on him. The ships that had once brought death to Earth were now being converted to protect other worlds from similar fates. "The Galactic Council has officially recognized the Human Protection Accords," Sarah announced, joining him at the viewport. "Any species that attacks civilian populations will face intervention from the Earth Defense Force. And they agreed to this because no one wants to find out what happens when you make 20,000 humans really, really angry at the same time." Marcus chuckled. The sound no longer carried the edge of barely contained fury that had terrified the Corvani. He had found something else to fuel his impossible biology: purpose. Dr. Park approached with her latest research findings. "The good news is that the spite-powered resurrection phenomenon is stabilizing. The bad news is that it's becoming hereditary." Both Chens turned to look at her. "Hereditary how?" Sarah asked. "Children born to resurrected humans are showing similar capabilities: enhanced healing, increased durability, and most importantly, an almost supernatural ability to sense and respond to injustice. We're looking at the birth of a new branch of humanity." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe that's not bad news after all." Through the station's communication system, reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy. The Corvani Empire had become the Corvani Federation, its former client species now equal partners in a more democratic government. The Zephyrian Collective had established diplomatic relations with Earth, curious about these strange humans who could literally will themselves back to life. Even the ancient ethereal conclave had sent representatives, intrigued by a species that had developed psychic abilities through sheer stubborn anger. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asked her brother. "Coming back, I mean. You could have just rested." Marcus smiled and looked out at the ships moving through space. Human vessels working alongside former enemies, protecting trade routes and watching for threats. "You know what I discovered about spite, Sarah?" It's not just about getting revenge. It's about making sure the thing you're angry about never happens again. A communication alert chimed, and the image of Admiral Thys appeared on the screen. The former Corvani commander looked older, humbler, but somehow more at peace than he had during their first encounter. Admiral Chen, Colonel Chen, Thys said with genuine respect. I wanted to inform you that the memorial for the human casualties has been completed on Corvani Prime. We will never forget the lesson you taught us. And what lesson was that? Marcus asked. That the universe is full of predators, but the most dangerous predator is the one that hunts on behalf of others. After the communication ended, Marcus and Sarah stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. In the distance, a new ship was arriving. A vessel from the Tau Ceti colonies, where human settlers were working alongside alien refugees to build something better than what had come before. So what now? Sarah asked. Marcus's expression was peaceful but determined. Now we make sure that when someone needs protection, they know exactly who to call. The spite-powered humans? No, Marcus corrected. Just humans. The spite is what brought us back, but what keeps us going is something much more powerful. Which is? Marcus smiled as he watched the Tau Ceti ship dock safely, its mixed crew of humans and aliens working together to unload supplies for refugees from the former Corvani territories. Hope. Turns out hope is even more stubborn than spite, and a lot harder to kill. In the depths of space, the galaxy continued to turn, but it turned now under the watchful eyes of a species that had learned the ultimate lesson. Sometimes, caring about others is the most powerful force in the universe, and sometimes it's powerful enough to bring you back from the dead, just to make sure you can keep caring. The end.